standing in the days preceding Tisha B'Av, when we all davening, praying, and ready to do anything that the Beis Hamikdash should be built again. And of course, we all know that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed because of Sinas Chinam, hatred without any reason. So the way to build the Beis Hamikdash again is by having Ahavas Chinam, uncompromised love without any reason. What does that mean? Of course, it doesn't mean that Ahavas Yisrael v'ahavta l'reach kamecha is only when a person has a reason to love someone. We have to love everybody, even somebody that there's no reason to love him. So what is the chidush of Ahavas Chinam? What does it mean that we have to love somebody even if there's no reason? So normally a person has many reasons why not to love. Why not to be together with someone? Why not to make peace with someone? Why not to get along with someone? People say, first of all, this person is wrong. He did something wrong. How could I get along with him? If I'm going to get along, I'm going to prove that what he did is right. How can I go to him if he's the one that actually started the whole fight? But I should ask him to make peace when he's at fault? It's not according to my koved, my status. How can I lower myself to this person? This person is a bal machlekes. All he wants is to fight. Look, he's fighting with everybody, everywhere, every time. And I'm supposed to be nice to him and go over to him and ask him to make peace, that we should be together. So, be'etzem, in the Parsha of Dvarim, we see in the beginning when Moshe Rabbeinu talks about the wrong things that the Jews did in the years that they were in the desert, one of the places that he mentioned is Chatzeres. Why is Chatzeres? What happened there? So Rashi says this is the machlekes of Korach. This was actually the moment when Korach rebelled against Moshe Rabbeinu, and this is what the Torah is trying to tell us. Remember that moment when you brought anger to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when you did something wrong against Hashem. And the question that arises right away is, who went against Hashem at that time? It was only 250 people, Korach, Dasan Vaviram, and maybe a few more. Why is Moshe rebuking all the Yidden for something that just 250 people did at that time? We must say that Chatzeres is actually something that is connected to every Jew. The Chidush Harim actually says the Chatzeres is not the place where it happened. It happened in Midbar Paran. Why does the Torah mention Chatzeres? Because the whole problem was these courtyards. Each one lived in his own courtyard and was making Shabbos on his own. There was no Eruv v'Chatzeres. They couldn't come together. The problem was, as sadly happens very often before we see a calamity, is machlekes. Machlekes is what has brought the Churban of the Beis Hamikdash and many, many other problems that the Jews had throughout history is only because of Chatzeres, because of the problem that we cannot come together as one people. So, the question is really, what does the Torah expect from us when there is such a problem? When there is such an issue like Korach fighting Moshe Rabbeinu, gathering some other people with him to go and fight, what are we supposed to do? What, should we forgive him? Should we make peace with him? This brings Chatzeres, this brings dividedness in the whole Jewish community. So what should be the reaction? What should we do? And here we see something really incredible. I would say even unprecedented, of the way Moshe Rabbeinu dealt with this problem. The Gemara says that Vayichan Moshe vayelech el Dasan Vaviram. Moshe Rabbeinu stood and he went to Dasan Vaviram. Mikan she'asur lehachzik b'machlekes. From here we learn that you cannot keep the quarrel. Where do we see this from? Moshe Rabbeinu going to Dasan Vaviram. And the Gemara says, V'kola machzik b'machlekes ever belav. It's actually a lav, an avera, to keep the machlekes, as it says v'leyiyeh kekerach v'chadosei. That there won't be no more Kerach and all his people around him, his community. That won't happen again. How will that not happen again? By making sure that there shouldn't be, in any case, somebody that will be machzik b'machlekes. Now let's see actually what was going on at that time. What was Moshe trying to do, and how did he try to achieve that? When we actually look at Rashi, al Torah, when Rashi brings his commentary on the word Vayishlach Moshe likre ledasan ve'laviram, the Moshe Rabbeinu sent people to call dasan ve'aviram. So Rashi says right away, Mikan she'em machzikim b'machlekes. Actually, Rashi brings it from a different pasuk, and Rashi says that Moshe Rabbeinu tried sending people to call dasan ve'aviram. It wasn't like the Gemara says when Moshe Rabbeinu went himself. The first time when he tried calling them, Rashi says that from here we learn she'em machzikim b'machlekes, and Moshe Rabbeinu sent these people, and he tried le'ashlimam b'divrei sholem. He tried to make with them peace by words of peace. Now let's see, what are we talking about? What happened here? Dasan ve'aviram. We know these characters from a long time ago. We know these two brothers practically from day one. Moshe Rabbeinu grew up in the house of Parei. He walks out and he sees one of the Shetrim, one of the Egyptians, trying to kill one of the Jewish people. And the Medrash says that this was actually Dasan. He tried to kill him. Moshe Rabbeinu stopped him, killed the Egyptian. Nobody saw it. Nobody was around. And he managed to kill him and bury him. And the next day Moshe Rabbeinu goes out again, and he sees actually the same Dasan with his brother Aviram fighting between the two of them. Fighting till the point the Moshe Rabbeinu realized that one of them is going to kill the other. Again, that's what the Medrash says. So Moshe Rabbeinu stops him and he says, Roscha lama takereyecha. Just by lifting your hand and trying to kill him, you became a Roscha. What are you trying to kill? Your friend, actually your brother. And then they answer, Halergenia ta'emer kasher raktes hamitzri. You want to kill me like you killed the Egyptian? He knew exactly what happened the day before, because he was there at that time. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, if that's the case, that we have dalturin, we have people going around and spreading lashon hara, neida adavar, now I understand why we are in Golus. Again, we are in Golus because of the machlekes. But Moshe Rabbeinu first saved Dasan from the Egyptian, then he saved one brother from the other, and nevertheless, what did these two brothers do? They go to Parei and they tell him, they are Meiser and Moshe, and they tell him Moshe killed the Egyptian. And Parei tries to kill Moshe Rabbeinu, and he runs away for over 60 years. At a certain point, Hashem says, the people that are trying to kill you, they themselves died. And Rashi says that they lost all their money, they aren't as powerful anymore. Dasan v'aviram are actually the ones that are trying to kill you. You were afraid to go back to Mitzrayim because of Dasan and Aviram. Comes the Torah and says, Hashem tells to Moshe, you don't have to worry. Dasan v'aviram practically died. They're so poor, they have no influence. So you can go back peacefully. 60 years later, Dasan v'aviram are still trying to kill Moshe Rabbeinu. But now they have no power to do it. They didn't come out of Mitzrayim. They're standing in front of Yam Suf. Who are the ones that, after seeing all these miracles that Moshe Rabbeinu made, and the Makkos and everything, who are the ones that go out and protest against Moshe Rabbeinu and do even worse things according to the Midrashim? Again, Dasan v'aviram. Later on, Hashem sends the man, and Moshe Rabbeinu says, you can eat the man, whatever you get from morning to night, don't leave anything for the next day. Who leaves over for the next day? Again, Dasan v'aviram. The Meraglim going to Eretz Yisrael, they come back and they say it's terrible. Who says, Vayemru ish elochiv nitna reish v'nashuva Mitzrayim? Or who are the ones that say, let's go back to Mitzrayim? We don't need Moshe Rabbeinu. Let's find somebody else to take over. And then we'll go back to Mitzrayim. Again, it's Dasan v'aviram. This is a record of like once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Even though Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that saved Dasan. Moshe saved one brother from the other. There's so much hatred here that every time anything that happens, they are fighting Moshe Rabbeinu. And here comes the final moment when Korach goes against Moshe Rabbeinu, who joins him? Again, Dasan v'Aviram. And the question is, why are they always picking a fight with Moshe Rabbeinu? Why are they always going and attacking Moshe Rabbeinu? No matter what happens, no matter what the situation is, they are the ones that are standing in the forefront to fight Moshe Rabbeinu. So somebody would have said, Moshe Rabbeinu, you see these people that are just out to get you. Not only they're out to get you, there's no reason for them to, this time with the story of Korach, that they should stand against you. Korach at least has a reason. He wants to become the Kohen Gadol. Somebody else was picked, and he says, it should have been me. These two men actually, they have no reason to complain. Because if anybody would have had to take over in the Shevet of Reuven and have an important position, it would have been their older brother Nemuel, or children from the older brothers of Reuven, the children of Chanoch. Where do you come into the picture? Why Dasan v'Aviram came out to complain against Moshe Rabbeinu? Korach at least was a Levi, he had a taina, he was older. Here you have nothing to come and even complain about. And maybe this is actually why Rashi learns it from Vayishlach Moshe v'ikra leDasan v'Aviram. Moshe Rabbeinu just explained to Korach why his complaint doesn't make sense. This was a logic complaint, and Moshe Rabbeinu gave an argument why he doesn't really have a chance to become a Kohen. Because this is something that Hashem picked and everything. But when it comes to Dasan v'Aviram, Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't even have to give them an argument and they're tiny, because what's their tiny? What do they want? They really have nothing to say. But they have one issue. They are fighting Moshe Rabbeinu. From day one, they're out to get him and make sure that Moshe Rabbeinu shouldn't be the one leading the Jewish people. Their time is even Ki elisonu mi'eretz zavas cholav udvash. You brought us from a land where honey and milk, there's honey and milk, the land of honey and milk. About Eretz Mitzrayim, that's what they say. They don't even say things that are logic. Doesn't make sense what they're saying. But their main point is fighting Moshe Rabbeinu. And here comes Moshe Rabbeinu. And he says, nevertheless, I'm going to go out of my way and go to them, call them, give them this recognition, this covet, that I'm the one calling them. Why? Because asur lehachzik b'machlekes. You're not allowed to keep the machlekes. Even though you're right, even though you're Moshe Rabbeinu, even though this is not the first time, this is already going back in history. These are people that are fighting no matter what. Moshe Rabbeinu has to go out of his way to show the asur lehachzik b'machlekes. It's not if you are making the fight. It's not about you making the fight. There is a fight. You have to do whatever you can that this fight should not take place. Now, actually, the Marsha says in the Gemara that what does it mean asur lehachzik b'machlekes? The Marsha says that there shouldn't be kamei she'asu kerach ve'adosei. That what we mean here, asur lehachzik b'machlekes, is not the Moshe Rabbeinu was machlik the machlekes. The Gemara means what Korach and his people did. This is what you're not allowed to do. But if you look at Rashi, especially Rashi Latera, it's clear that we're talking about here Moshe Rabbeinu did whatever he can, Vayikhan Moshe, in order that there shouldn't be lachzik b'machlekes. Moshe Rabbeinu had to go out of his way, reach out to Dasan v'Aviram, even though they had no reason to fight Moshe Rabbeinu. He had to do it. Why? Because asur lehachzik b'machlekes. Even though you're not part of the equation, you're not part of the story, these people are fighting you. As the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, what is the machlekes she'eina l'shem shamayim? Machlekes kerach ve'adosei. Moshe Rabbeinu is not part of the machlekes. Moshe Rabbeinu is being attacked here. There maybe they're fighting between themselves, as the Mefarshim say. That's the machlekes. Nevertheless, Moshe Rabbeinu completely leaves his covet, who he is, the Melech, and he tries to reach out to them. Mikan, Rashi says, even this first step the Moshe Rabbeinu did, calling them, giving them this recognition, importance, showing them he's ready to go out to them, even though he's 100% right, nevertheless, he made the step to reach out to them. And from here we learn a lav, even though the Rambam says this is not mamash lav, the Rambam doesn't count it in the lavim, but the smag and the bahag, and actually the Ramban also, in a certain way, and the Mishnah Brura says it clearly in Siman Kufn and Vav, and later it's brought in others for him, that this is actually a lav. She'osur lehachzik b'machlekes. You're not allowed to keep a quarrel. Doesn't make a difference who's right and who's wrong. You have to make sure do whatever you can that this machlekes shouldn't exist. How do you do that? So number one, you look from Aaron HaKohen. Aaron HaKohen, the Mishnah says, Eyev Sholem v'Reidev Sholem. Hevemi Talmidav shel Aaron, Eyev Sholem v'Reidev Sholem. What does it mean? We all know that Aaron HaKohen needs to go to one side and to the other side and tell them, this guy actually wants to make peace with you, and he tells the other person he wants to make peace with you, and then they would meet and they would make peace. So number one, looks like Aaron HaKohen is saying a lie. It's not true that this person wants to make peace and the other person wants to make peace. So we always understand that actually this is the real rotzen. The real desire of everyone is actually to make peace. Nobody wants to fight. Deep inside, everybody wants to make peace. The Yetzer Hara and the situation and what happened and the place they're in doesn't let them figure out how to make peace. So you need the Aaron that's going to go out of his way to bring the sholem. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe once said that actually the Mishnah could have said just, what you have to do, you should be a Eyev Sholem, a Reidev Sholem. Why do we have to bring a Raya from Aaron? Hevemi Talmidav shel Aaron, because look, even Aaron HaKohen, notwithstanding his position, where he was coming from, he had to go to these people that were in the middle of a fight, go out of his way, lower himself to these kind of people in order to bring shalom. So this is one option. First of all, how do you do that? By looking at what is right and what is good in each person. Hevedan es kolodem lechav schus. You look at them and you see what is their potential. What is really deep inside of them. What will happen if they'll actually figure out to make shalom and try to bring the shalom. This is when you see two other people fighting, your achrayus is to make sure that there shouldn't be a machlekes. It's not about are you part of the machlekes. Even if you are not part of it, you have to go and make sure asur lehachzik b'machlekes, no matter who's fighting. If there is chatzeres, if we have an issue of this chatzer and this chatzer, this courtyard, that courtyard, he doesn't speak to him, he doesn't speak to him, we cannot just stand idle and say this is their problem. We have to get mixed in. Why is chatzeres, why is Moshe Rabbeinu mentioning the fight of Kerach? Because if there is a fight, it's a problem that has a connection to every single Yid in that moment. This that Kerach was able to stand up against Moshe Rabbeinu and pick a fight, this that Dasan and Aviram again started complaining, quarreling, this is a problem that has a connection to every Yid at that moment. And that's why Moshe rebukes every Yid. Chatzeres is a problem for every single Jew. Now, from Moshe Rabbeinu we learn actually that even though you are right, and even though one side is right, so who's going to go and has to ask for forgiveness? Who has to go and make the first move? Who has to approach the other one? So Mikan, actually from Moshe Rabbeinu, making these steps towards Dasan and Aviram, this is the best example for us to learn who has to make the first step? The one that is right. The one that is wrong, actually because he's wrong, is in a tough position. For him to go and ask forgiveness, it's not easy. So actually the one that believes that he's 100% right, in the case of Moshe Rabbeinu, you couldn't be more right than this. Hashem himself told him what to do. And Moshe Rabbeinu did exactly what Hashem told him. And Dasan and Aviram again are not coming around the first time. This is already the 10th time. So if Kerach is not ready to listen, what is the point of discussing it with these kind of people that are out to get you? That they are against you from day one. From Vayigdal Moshe, the first moment that Moshe Rabbeinu became a leader, they started fighting him. So comes the Torah and says, actually, how do you do that? By Vayishlach Moshe, Vayokam Moshe. Moshe is the one that makes the step to reach out to them. Lashlimam bedivrei sholem. The words of shalom could break any barriers. Even though these people have been making trouble time after time after time, you still have a chance to make shalom with them. Never give up on someone. Maybe you have to bend down backwards. Maybe you have to reach out to him. Maybe you have to give him a lot of kavod, show that you are calling him specially. You are standing up and going to him. Only maybe there is still a chance that this person is going to accept to make shalom. And actually here we see that Dasan and Aviram, their fight, there was no reason for the fight. It was actually Sinas Chinam. Why were they fighting with Moshe Rabbeinu? There was a reason. Moshe did something wrong to them. Moshe actually saved them. Nevertheless, they were fighting him. This is Sinas Chinam at its best. What does Moshe Rabbeinu show? Ahavas Chinam. Not only there's no reason to love them, not only there's no reason why to make shalom. That's easy. That's the mitzvah of the Torah. Even though this person has nothing to do with you, you're not going to gain nothing out of it. There's no reason why to love him. He has no milas. You still have to love him. That's the mitzvah. Comes Ahavas Chinam and tells us, even though there is a reason not to make shalom with him. Logic says that there's no reason, nothing going for this person. He's somebody that is going to fight you, and he fights you today and he's going to fight you tomorrow. And every time that there's a fight, he's going to be there. Without logic. Nevertheless, that's where you have to show Ahavas Chinam. So it's not only about finding the good in somebody else, because I think even Moshe Rabbeinu would have tried to figure out what do Dasan and Aviram want. It's not only ledan lechavschus, like Aaron HaKohen looked for something good by everyone and he found the good and he said they really want to make peace. It was clear that Dasan and Aviram don't want to make peace. And Moshe Rabbeinu tries once, and again Vayichan Moshe. And again he goes specially to them. And the Gemara learns, actually from the second time, even more, Mikan she'osur lachzik b'machlekes. There's no reason, there's no case when you could come and say the machlekes has to happen. Of course, you have to stand for what is right, and that's why you see by the story of Korach with Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu stands for what is right. He's not ready to back down. But he goes out of his way, and he tries whatever he can to make sure that if there's any chance of having shalom with them, this is going to try to do whatever he can. And I think that we are standing now at a special time for Eden in general, for Klal Yisrael, and a lot has happened in the last few months. Hard times for the Eden, for the world in general, and at these kind of moments, this is when you can find special strength to change your attitude, to make a change in the way you relate to other people. If always the answer that we used to give to ourselves is, we are 100% right. We went to the Torah, and the Torah paskin that I'm right. I tried to call this person to the Torah, he didn't even want to come. I tried to send someone, and he didn't come to me. You think you tried enough? Comes Moshe Rabbeinu and shows us. And he tells each one of us, no, Vayishlach Moshe, Vayichan Moshe. Moshe sent people. He stood up himself. He stood up and he went to try to reach out to Dasan and Aviram. And not only that, the Torah says that anybody around is also part of this Chatzeres. Everybody also is connected to this problem of Chatzeres. How do you solve the problem? So again, the Chidush Harim says something very special. That when Shlomo Melech was mesaken eruv Chatzeres, Hashem then said, Chacham libcha. This is actually the solution. Why? Because eruv Chatzeres, to take one kezais, one small piece of challah, bread, matzah, and this unites everybody. All our problems in general, most of our problems, are because of monetary issues, COVID issues, physical issues. Has nothing to do with the ruchnis of our life. If we connect with something that is higher than us, as the Chidush Harim says, if we connect to the Tzaddik Hader, this brings in the Ruva Chatzeres. This is what brings unity to our people. So you have to really, in order to be able to reach out to someone, you have to really go out of yourself, go out of your limitations, go out of your ego and say, you know what, it doesn't make sense, I'm doing something which is above logic, this is Ahavas Chinam. When logic actually tells you that there is no reason that we should do this, but comes Torah and says, you want to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash, you want there should be something that unites all the Yidden together. And we are all together because we're all connected to Hashem Echad. If you want to prove this, there has to be Ahavas Chinam, above logic. The unity that is within our people has nothing to do with logic. The same way that an Ava from a father to a son doesn't make a difference what the son is going to do once and again, he's going to still reach out to him. He's still going to go out after him and ask him to come back and do whatever he can. Even though the son did the worst things against the father is still going to try to find a way to reach out to him. This is the way we have to have our attitude to every single Yid. Every single person that we are in touch with or we aren't in touch with, we have to understand that this is ke'achim mamesh. We are like real brothers. And notwithstanding on what happened in the past, we have to do whatever we can to take away the machlekes completely, to make sure the machlekes shouldn't exist at all. How do you do it? You have to go out of your way, sometimes reaching out to someone that you don't know and is fighting with somebody else and tell them, listen, I had my experience. Let me tell you, it's not worth it. Nothing good comes out of it. And as we mentioned before, Golus Mitzrayim was because of machlekes. The Churban the Beis HaMikdash was because of Sinas Chinam. These are the reasons that sadly brought not good times for the Jewish people. And today when we see again a big nisoyen, a big test that Hashem is giving us, we have to be able to come out of this stronger, better, more united. So the real question is if each one of us is going to use these days before Tisha B'Av and do something to reach out to someone, whether it's someone that is fighting with somebody else or somebody that has problems with us, we had a problem with them, learning from Moshe Rabbeinu, learning from Aaron HaKohen, how to reach out to people, how to bring real shalom. And there's no question that the Kli Machzik Bracha, Lematza Kadosh Baruch Hu Kli Machzik Bracha La Shalom, the best vessel that Hashem could have found to receive the brachas, that a person should be able to receive his brachas, is only shalom. You could have the best brachas from Hashem, but if you don't have a keli, if you don't have a place where to keep and receive these brachas, what are they all worth? They're just going to go wasted. So we all want the brachas for the refuah shleima, brachas for atzlocha, brachas for parnasa. All these brachas need a keli. They need a place where they could come down and become part of our life. How do we do that? By bringing shalom. So I wish that Mirz Hashem yehapchu yamim elu lesosen ulesimcha ve'emes ve'asholem ha'evu. Of course there has to be emes. Of course we cannot go away from what is the truth. But Meisha emes ve'terasa emes. Moshe Rabbeinu was the best sign of what is emes completely. He himself, after being by the level of emes, reached out for shalom, and he tried shalom as much as he could and even more. We should learn from his example, and this will be the best preparation. The Mirz Hashem, the Tisha B'Av is going to be already a time of celebration all together in the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, B'mheira B'yameinu Mamesh. Yirachim,